Hey, David Revhoff here. This weekend, I went to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo here in Portland, Oregon, and just want to share with you kind of my impressions of it, and then I got a bunch of pickups from it too that I'll share in a lot more detail in a minute. If you're not familiar with it, Portland has one of the bigger retro gaming expos. I don't know if it's the biggest; it's probably in the top two or three, and it goes all weekend. So last year I was wanting to go, but for some reason I couldn't make it, and I was kind of bummed out because I saw all these awesome pictures people were posting, and it looked like a really cool event. And they have there's some of the bigger names in like game collection and preservation, and a lot of some of the people who run the bigger independent retro game shops in the area, like on the West Coast. Do lots of YouTube videos together, and there's a group maybe of like half a dozen people that do a lot of work together, put out a lot of content, and they're just like generally really awesome nerdy people. So anyway, they go to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo and put on a bunch of different talks, and some of them are like panel things, and some of them are individual. So I was hoping to see some of those. Unfortunately, those are like spread out over the whole week. It's a crazy long thing. Like it starts in the morning and goes till the night, and then there's like after events and stuff, and it goes all weekend. And I've got a family and little kids, so it's hard for me to get away for more than a few hours at a time. So I was hoping to make it to some more of those events. Wasn't really able to do that. I did make it to I think it's Kelsey Lewin. Who runs a shop called Pink Gorilla Games up in it's either Seattle or Bellevue, and she has a pretty popular YouTube channel and does a bunch of videos with Metal Jesus, who's like one of the more well-known game collectors who makes videos on YouTube. Anyway, she did a talk with somebody else about writing for video games and video game preservation, and it was kind of cool. It wasn't a huge group, so like it was kind of just fun to go. See somebody that you've seen do a bunch of stuff on online, do a talk in person. So that was really cool. And then there was just a ton of stuff to do here. Like this, it's a huge event. The convention center is really big, and they have like two of the biggest rooms dedicated to just exhibitors. So people selling games and people selling art. And then there's like a whole section off to the side that's, that must have had maybe 30 or 40 classic pinball games set up. And these are like the full size big pinball machines. And then, and even next to those, they had rows and rows of tables, and the tables all had different consoles from all different eras set up with games and two controllers. So like you could play competitive games or whatever with people. I think they had like Worms Armageddon was a Dreamcast game that I saw set up on it. But I mean, they had all kinds of stuff. It was pretty incredible. It would have been a lot of fun to go. I had some friends that went the next day, but I ended up going on my own. But if you had the time, it'd be fun to go with just some friends and take some time and play some of those games. Yeah. So for me, I was kind of looking for. I'm kind of lucky. I have a really good retro gaming shop that's pretty close to me, and they generally have like anything that I'm looking for. The only downside is their prices can be pretty high. But it's a brick and mortar store. I know they're there. If something's wrong with one of the games, I can always take it back. So I don't really mind. But because of that, I was just mainly looking for stuff that I couldn't buy at that store at this event. So I had my eye out for Japanese imported games. That's something I've always been interested in, but there's an added benefit now, which is that the U.S. like Super Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Dreamcast, and Saturn games, which are kind of what I'm most interested in collecting, are all just insanely expensive. They just didn't make as many of them here as they made in Japan. And so anyway, I was interested in, I had like a list of games I've been wanting to pick up online, and I just haven't because I'm kind of nervous to just buy complete in-box stuff off eBay. Like it's really hard to see what the condition is on it. So, and not that I wouldn't do it. It's just I'd rather see the stuff in person if I can. So that's kind of what I was seeking out at this event. And each of the booths had a little bit, I would say. Like nobody, I thought it might just be like one booth that did this, but pretty much all the booths had some imports. So yeah, I'll just show you the pickups I got. I think I'll end with the Japanese imports, but maybe I'll show you some of the more common stuff that I got first. So I'm not like a huge collector, but I mainly want to get the stuff that I played as a kid or that I really wanted to play and I missed, didn't get a chance to play. And I wanted to get some Japanese versions of things that I played and really liked. So, I mean, this is a very common one, but one I did not have, Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. I've never played through this thing. I've played a little bit of the emulated version. Yeah, I was just really interested in running through this whole game. So that was cool to grab. I think it wasn't very expensive. I think it was like $5 or something. And then I didn't have a Super Game Boy. These things are really convenient because if you have, like I have a Retron, and I can just plug this into the Retron, and then I can plug any of my Game Boy games now into this, which is pretty cool. Play those. So I don't have to play them on the terrible, notoriously bad classic Game Boy screen. Another one that I did not play when I was a kid, and I was so confused by this when I got older, is Yoshi's Island. So if you're not familiar with this, this is the sequel to Super Mario World, and I had no idea when I was a kid that this was the sequel. And if you're familiar with the art on this at all, maybe you can just tell from the label. It has a very different art style than in like any of the other Mario games. It almost looks like a kid. It's supposed to look like a kid kind of drew it with crayons or something. If you saw pictures of it, you would be very confused and not think it was a Mario game if you didn't know any better. But a really cool game. I've actually played it on other systems. I think like the Game Boy Advance or something. But anyway, glad to have a copy of that. Really cool game. Another one that I got was Star Fox. So just one of the later releases on the Super Nintendo. You can see it's got the FX chip here. So this was like the special chip that they tacked onto the cartridge that allows it to have a little more processing power, I guess, or RAM. I'm not really sure what, to do those fake 3D graphics that were so new at the time, or at least for consoles. So that was cool. I was glad to get that. It's kind of one that's been on my list. So now we're getting into some of the imports. So one of the few early Sega Saturn games that I owned was this game, Shining Wisdom. It's an RPG. It's kind of got that rendered 3D, but 2D look to it. I don't know if you can tell from here. Kind of like that. But anyway, this wasn't very expensive, so I just went ahead and picked it up. I really like the artwork for it. I think the concept art is like, obviously way better than whatever was in the game itself, but really cool concept artwork. And the manuals on these things are like pristine. It's crazy how clean all these manuals are in all these imported games. But it even has like the inserts, which is kind of nuts. The original inserts, and all in very good condition. Oh man, look at this! These character designs. Like, you just don't get this in manuals anymore. Like, I'm such a sucker for a manual that's really got characters in them. When I was a kid, probably up through high school and early college, I drew a lot, and one of the things that I would do is I would take manuals like this to school with me for my games, and I would just draw the characters. I would just like practice drawing all the characters throughout the day whenever I was kind of bored or whatever. So anyway, just kind of nostalgic for me. I think one of the best games I had for doing that was Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the Saturn, because the manual for it is absolutely enormous, and they did like a full page for each character. And along those lines, I picked up a Darkstalkers game. I had never owned one of them, and I just really, really like the artwork from those games. Like, that era of character designs in games, especially Capcom games, is like some of my favorite. And again, like, just pristine manual. They've got it has a page dedicated to each character, and So those are just really cool to get. I was excited to get those. There's a bunch more Dreamcast stuff I'd like to pick up. I'm going to go through these other ones kind of fast. So I got Final Fantasy IV. You can see this box is like almost perfect. I can't find any visible damage on it. I mean, it's got a little bit of the normal like wear on the corners and edges and stuff, but I mean, the game's like 25 years old at this point, so hard pressed to find a box with 0 damage. And again, yeah, it comes with a nice manual, really thick too. It might be hard to see on the camera, but that is a thick manual. Yeah, it's just fun to like flip through it. You can really get a sense of like what's in the game design and stuff. And then they have all the characters, so page for each character. It's kind of odd to me. Both these renderings and the 3D ones look nothing like the actual characters in the game. And then on all these, the carts are just super clean, like no damage at all. It doesn't look like somebody faked it and printed new stickers, but it still looks like pretty good quality. So let's switch it up a little bit. Here's Chrono Trigger. So yeah, just wanted to grab this. This box is super clean. It had a sticker on here. I usually try to take these off, but this is kind of an like anti-theft sticker, I think. Even after I soaked it, it wouldn't peel up easily, so I was afraid I'd rip up the box, which I did not want to do. So I left it on there. And I do have the manual for that. Where'd I put it? I will find that in a minute. But yeah, again, it had the cart looked great. Manual was great. The manual had a bunch of original artwork in it, which is really awesome. Oh yeah, here it is. It even had this awesome like promo insert. This looks like it was some kind of TV event, some Mario TV event. And then I have no idea what that is. Stellaview. But hold on, I'll get it here in a second. Yeah, so cart's clean, really nice. Chrono Trigger cart. I think I do wonder if some of these, it's so clean, like makes me wonder if somebody's doing reproductions or if they're really that well maintained. But yeah, the manual is fantastic, like no flaws in it. You can see, again, it's a very thick manual, and it's just cool. They have like the artwork from the one of the scenes, just like really nice, well done artwork. And yeah, there's like kind of that classic camping scene from, I think that might have been on the back of the box in the US version or something. But anyway, just all the stuff, the quality is great. Even if it was a reproduction, I don't think I would be disappointed. All the games I got for like 20, the ones in box I got on average for 25 each, or maybe a little less. So here's Final Fantasy 6, or in the US, Final Fantasy 3. I really love this artist. Yoshitaka Amano. Like, he's got a really cool style. For me, this was like one of the first. I played a lot of like Japanese games as a kid, but wasn't really aware that they were like from Japan or didn't click or something. And this is like one of the first ones where I was like, oh, this is like something from another country, and it's so different from like whatever, the US games were at the time. I think it was also the first big RPG that I played, or Japanese RPG that I played, so kind of had a big impact on me, and really stuck with me. And as I mentioned earlier, I drew a lot as a kid, and one of the things I drew a lot of was like older Western fairy tales, so like Arthur Rackham and well, not that's fairy tale, but like Dlock and I don't know, but a bunch of different old artists. Anyway, this guy's style is like kind of a mix of some of those pen and ink, especially artists, and then but it also obviously has like a huge Eastern and Japanese influence. So I was always kind of intrigued by his style. I have a bunch of his art books and stuff, so it was exciting to pick that up. And as well, that one has a super nice cart, really clean label. The cart's pretty clean. I think it's got a little bit of yellowing. And then the manual's just fantastic again. Like big, thick manual. It's got some of those kind of 3D-ish looking rendered characters in the back. I was trying to see if it had a nice scene. Nope, not really any nice scenes. Let's see if I can find a... Here we go. Here's a classic. Got the Moogle up there. But yeah, just really well done. It's kind of a bummer you don't get stuff like that anymore with games. Like, I think Switch games are probably the worst. You get a plastic case and like a memory card, and like there's literally nothing else in the box. So it annoys me every time I buy one of those. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Those are my pickups. If you hadn't been to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo and you're thinking of going, especially if you're younger and don't have as many commitments or kids or whatever to worry about, I could totally see going and at least spending a full day there, if not making a weekend out of it. If you had a bunch of friends in town and you just wanted to kind of check it out, there's a lot of good stuff too in that area, like lots of good breweries and restaurants, and it's really close. You can take the light rail, TriMet, I think. You could take the light rail to the convention center from a lot of places in town, and then take it from the convention center to the west side of town or the east side of town. So it's a pretty convenient location. So yeah, if you haven't gone and you have an interest in going, I totally recommend going. If you happen to go and you picked up some cool stuff or whatever, like, please just, leave comments below and let me know. If you have any questions about it that I can answer, or about any of the stuff that I picked up, happy to answer that too. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.